This is the Integrity News Podcast concept by Dr. Anarchy and Kai Lacrosse, created by Dr. Anarchy. This episode is hosted by Christopher Baker and Jennifer Harrell. Now here is Chris and Jen.
All right, welcome everyone. We're diving deep today into some recent political appointments from President-elect Trump. It seems his return to the White House is, well, it's making some waves.
Definitely making a splash, yeah.
Yeah.
Some familiar faces are back.
Yeah, and some choices that are, let's just say, raising a few eyebrows.
To say the least.
Today, we're zeroing in on one in particular.
Okay.
Matt Gaetz, Trump's pick for, get this, Attorney General.
Wow.
And we'll also be looking at Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene's very vocal reaction to this.
Right.
This story's got layers, folks. We're going to peel them all back.
Let's do it.
So, first off, this appointment could mean some serious trouble.
Oh.
Like a major conflict of interest with Gaetz's current investigation.
Right.
That House Ethics Committee thing, we'll get into that. But also the public's reaction to this news.
Yeah, what are people saying?
Well, let's just say, not exactly sunshine and rainbows.
I can imagine this is definitely a situation worth looking at closely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's wild to see people who've been, in the middle of so much controversy,
Right.
suddenly being put in charge of, whoa, so much.
Positions of real power. Yeah, it's something to think about.
Okay, so Greene, we
Yeah.
know she's had some interesting theories in the past,
We can say that again.
but now she's praising Gaetz, calling his nomination a total repudiation of 4 years of tyranny. I mean, come on.
Makes you wonder what's going on behind the scenes, especially with Gaetz being under investigation by the House Ethics Committee.
Oh yeah, that. For some pretty serious stuff.
Sex trafficking, obstruction of justice. It's not a small thing.
Hold on. So, the guy who could be facing charges for these crimes
Yeah.
could end up being in charge of the entire Department of Justice.
Well, that's the potential scenario we're looking at, and it raises some huge concerns.
Huge is an understatement. I mean, talk about a conflict of interest.
You're telling me if Gaetz is confirmed, he'd basically be leading the organization that's investigating him.
Okay, so then what happens to the investigation if he actually becomes Attorney General? Does it just vanish?
Pretty much. The House Ethics Committee loses jurisdiction if he becomes Attorney General. Their investigation would stop.
Wow. Okay, no wonder people are freaking out.
It's a lot to take in.
I've seen some pretty strong words on social media, people calling this appointment everything from a joke to a total disaster.
Yeah, I've seen similar things. There's a lot of unease, and rightfully so.
People are picking up on the fact that this could set a really bad example.
Exactly. If someone can just get appointed to a position that protects them from an investigation.
Right. What does that even say about accountability? About the rule of law?
It's a scary thought. And it makes you question the future of our democracy.
Okay, this is getting a little too real.
Yeah.
And it's not just Gaetz.
Oh, no. This is just the tip of the iceberg.
Trump is bringing back a whole team of, well, let's call them controversial figures.
It's putting it lightly.
RFK Jr. being considered for a health policy role. Kristi Noem, potentially for Homeland Security.
And then there's the Elon Musk situation, co-leading the Department of Government Efficiency.
Seriously.
Yeah.
This is like a who's who of people who make headlines for all the wrong reasons.
And it makes you wonder about what direction things are headed.
This isn't just about politics either. This impacts everyone. We're talking healthcare, national security, the whole darn government.
You hit the nail on the head. These decisions could change everything.
And don't forget about Marjorie Taylor Greene. She's made it pretty clear she wants a big role in this.
Yeah, citing her loyalty to Trump.
This whole thing feels like a ticking time bomb.
It's a precarious situation. And
Yeah.
we can't ignore the potential consequences of a second Trump presidency with these individuals calling the shots.
Okay, I need a minute to process all this.
It's a lot to absorb.
This is like some political thriller in real life, and I'm not sure I like the ending.
Well, let's not jump to conclusions just yet.
Right, good point. Let's take a closer look at some of these individual appointments and what they could really mean.
Let's break it down. All right, let's start with RFK Jr., the guy who could be in charge of health policy.
Oh, man.
His views on vaccines have been a bit of a problem for a while now.
You mean his whole thing about vaccines and autism?
That's the one. Scientists have debunked it over and over, but he's stuck to it.
It's scary, right? Putting someone with those kinds of beliefs in a position of power?
Very alarming. Imagine the impact on public health if someone who holds those views is making decisions.
It's like, I don't know, letting a wolf guard the sheep.
Exactly. And then there's Kristi Noem. Homeland Security, potentially?
Right, her record on immigration isn't exactly stellar.
To put it mildly. Very hardline stance.
Some would say her policies are straight up inhumane.
And ineffective, too.
So are we talking even harsher immigration policies if she gets in?
It's definitely on the table. Anyone who cares about human rights should be concerned.
No kidding. And then there's, I still can't believe this, Elon Musk.
Co-leading the Department of Government Efficiency. Yeah, it's a head-scratcher.
Okay, I get he's a smart guy, a business whiz, but the government.
It's not exactly his area of expertise. And let's not forget his Twitter adventures.
Yeah, that didn't exactly scream efficient leadership, did it?
Not really, and that brings up a bigger issue.
What's that?
Public trust. These appointments, they could really erode people's faith in the government.
Like they're intentionally trying to dismantle things.
It's a disturbing pattern. We have to keep our eyes on this.
If we don't, who knows what could happen? This is heavy stuff. I feel like we're watching a train wreck in slow motion.
It's easy to feel helpless when things seem so big and out of control.
But we're not completely powerless, are we?
Definitely not. We can make a difference. We have to.
So what can we do? Seriously, how do we stop this nightmare from becoming reality?
First things first, stay informed, know what's happening, what's at stake.
Not just doom scrolling on social media, though, right?
Right. Find reliable news sources. Fact-check everything. Don't just take things at face value.
Okay, so we educate ourselves. Then what?
Make your voice heard. Contact your representatives. Show up at town halls. Let them know you're paying attention.
Yeah, get loud. Don't let them think they can get away with this.
And remember, you're not alone. There are groups, organizations fighting for the things you care about.
Right. Find those people, work together.
Collective action, that's where the real power is.
So it's about raising awareness, getting people involved, and putting pressure on those in charge.
Exactly. We have to remind them who they work for.
This isn't just about stopping bad things from happening, though.
No, it's bigger than that. We have to have a vision for something better.
A future where things are, well, not like this.
A future built on justice, equality, where everyone has a chance.
We need to change the whole conversation.
Yes. Offer a real alternative to all the division and negativity.
We can do that, right?
Yeah.
Even when things feel this messed up.
Absolutely. Every single one of us can contribute. Even small actions add up.
So even now, with all this going on, there's still hope.
There's always hope. But hope isn't just a feeling, it has to lead to action.
I like that. It means we're not giving up, that we can create something better.
We can, and we have to.
It's easy to get lost in all this negativity, to feel like we're, powerless to stop it.
Yeah, I get that. But we're not powerless. We can't forget that.
We have a voice. We can actually make a difference.
Exactly. And this is when it matters most. People need to get involved.
So how do we do that? What can we actually do to push back against this whole situation?
Step 1, stay informed. Don't just rely on what pops up on your feed.
Right. Got to get out of those echo chambers.
Find reliable news sources, fact-check everything, be critical.
Okay, so we educate ourselves. What's next?
You got to speak up. Contact your representatives, go to town halls, make your presence known.
Yeah, make some noise. Let them know we're watching and we're not okay with this.
And there's power in numbers. Find the groups, the organizations that are fighting for the things you believe in.
Right. Join them. Support them.
Collective action, that's how things change.
So it's about awareness, getting people involved, putting pressure on those in power. It's a lot.
It is. But it's necessary. We got to remind them who they work for.
And it's not just about stopping the bad stuff either.
No, it's about building something better.
A future we can actually be proud of.
A future based on fairness, on equality, where everyone has a shot.
Yeah, that's what we need. We need to shift the whole conversation.
Yes. Offer a real alternative to all this negativity and division.
Even when things feel this bleak, we can still do that, right?
Absolutely. We all have a part to play. Every action counts.
So there's still hope, even now.
Always. But hope has to lead to action. It can't just be a feeling.
I love that. It means we're not giving up, that we can create something better than this.
We can. We have to.
Wow, this has been a lot to take in. Definitely a little unsettling, but it's also empowering to remember that we're not helpless. We can make a difference.
Encouraging people to get involved, stay engaged.
Because a healthy democracy needs everyone to participate. We're diving into election security.
Okay.
Which I know is something that, everyone's thinking about a lot these days.
Yeah, definitely top of mind.
Especially with, everything that's happened in the past few years.
Absolutely.
And so we get this really interesting letter.
Okay.
That was sent to Vice President Harris from a bunch of computer security experts.
Hmm.
Really, really smart people. And it was published by Free Speech for People,
I see.
which is this nonprofit that's really focused on election protection. And these experts are, they're not holding back.
Okay.
They're laying out some serious concerns about voting system breaches that happened back in 2021 and 2022.
Right.
And they're calling for recounts in a whole bunch of key states.
Yeah. So what's really scary about all this is that
Yeah.
we're not just talking about, like theoretical problems here.
Right.
Like, what could happen? What if someone did this? We're talking about actual documented cases where people tied to Trump's attorneys actually got their hands on voting equipment
Wow.
and made copies of the software.
That's insane.
Yeah. It's like if someone got the blueprints to like Fort Knox or something.
Yeah. That's a really unnerving thought.
Yeah.
And you know what makes it even worse is that
What's that?
the experts are saying that, like, bad actors could use this software to basically create, like, fake voting systems.
Right.
So they could test out all these attacks and figure out how to manipulate the systems
Exactly.
without anyone even noticing.
It's like a recipe for disaster.
It really is. And it gets even scarier when you think about the possibility of malware.
Oh, yeah.
The experts are saying that, someone with enough skill could create this malicious software that could change vote counts.
And it's not just about changing votes that have already been cast.
Oh, right.
Like, what if they put this malware on the systems
Oh,
before the election even happens?
Yeah.
Like, maybe they could even get to the companies that make the voting systems.
Right.
And if that happens, the whole election could be compromised from the start.
That's like straight out of a movie.
It really is.
But these experts are saying this is a real danger.
Oh, it's absolutely real.
And what's crazy is that they've been trying to warn people about this for a while now.
Yeah, that's right. They sent letters to the Attorney General,
Wow.
the FBI Director, even the head of CISA
Wow.
back in 2022 and 2023.
And CISA, that's the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency.
Right.
Just so everyone's clear.
Exactly. And in these letters, they were basically begging for a real investigation into these breaches.
I'm like, what could happen because of them?
Exactly.
But it seems like nobody's really listening.
Yeah, unfortunately, it seems like their warnings haven't gotten through.
So it doesn't sound like there's been a full investigation
Not that we know of.
into how this voting software was misused.
Nope. And that's really worrying when you think about what it could mean for future elections.
It really is. So what are these experts saying we should do about this?
Well, they want Vice President Harris to push for recounts in a few states.
Okay.
They're saying that these recounts are super important to check the computer-generated tallies against the actual paper ballots.
Okay. I see. So they're saying recounts are different from audits.
Exactly. Audits usually happen way later,
Okay.
after the election results are already official
Okay.
and after the deadline for asking for recounts has passed.
About then, it's too late.
Yeah, it could be too late to fix any problems or figure out if there was any manipulation.
Right. So it's basically a race against time.
Exactly. If there's been any messing around, we got to catch it before it's too late.
And the stakes are huge.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, this isn't just about numbers on a screen.
Right.
This is about making sure that the people's votes are actually reflected in the election results.
Exactly. And to really understand how serious this is,
Yeah.
we need to look at who's raising the alarm here.
Yeah. Who are these experts?
These aren't just random people with opinions.
Okay.
These are the leading experts in computer security. They've been doing this for decades.
And they're saying this is a big deal.
Exactly. Their expertise makes their concerns even more serious.
So let's talk about some of these names.
Sure.
One that really stands out is Professor Duncan Buell.
Okay.
He's the chair emeritus at the University of South Carolina's Department of Computer Science and Engineering.
Wow. So he really knows his stuff.
Oh, yeah. He's been studying voting systems his whole career.
So he knows all the ins and outs.
And all the ways they can be messed with.
Exactly, which is why his warning is so scary.
It really is. Another big name on this letter is David Jefferson.
Okay.
He has a PhD, and he's worked at both Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory
Wow.
and the Election Integrity Foundation.
He's been fighting for fair elections for a long time.
Yeah, his work is focused on making elections more secure and transparent.
So he knows how important this is.
He's been at the forefront of this battle for years.
Trying to make sure our voting systems are strong enough to resist attacks.
Exactly. And then there's Susan Greenhalgh.
Okay.
She's the senior advisor for election security at Free Speech for People.
Right, the group that published this letter.
Exactly. She's dedicated her whole career to protecting our democracy.
Wow.
Her expertise in election security gives her a really unique perspective on the threats we're facing.
And how urgently we need to address them.
Absolutely. So these three individuals, plus the other experts who signed the letter, Chris Klaus, William John Malik, Peter G. Newman, and Professor John E. Savage, they bring so much knowledge to this issue.
It's a whole team of superheroes for democracy.
It really is, and their collective warning should be taken really seriously.
Absolutely. This isn't about politics.
Right.
This is about protecting the foundation of our democracy.
The right to vote.
Exactly. And that right depends on the integrity of the systems that count our votes.
But these breaches have really shaken that trust.
Yeah, they really have.
And the experts think that recounts are a crucial step in rebuilding that trust.
That makes sense.
They're saying that by comparing the computer tallies to the paper ballots, we can be more sure that the results are accurate and haven't been tampered with.
Right. And the timing of these recounts is super important.
Right.
If we wait until after everything's official, it might be impossible to challenge the results even if they're messed up.
Wow. So we're really in a time crunch here.
Definitely every minute counts.
It's a scary reminder that election security isn't just some abstract idea.
Yeah.
It's a real threat
Oh, absolutely.
that we need to deal with right now.
It's like a fire alarm going off.
And we got to do something about
We
it.
can't just ignore it.
So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive,
Okay.
it's clear that we've uncovered a really complex and worrying issue.
Yeah, no doubt about that.
But the bottom line is this: our elections are under threat.
And the big question is, what are we going to do about it?
What can we do to protect our democracy?
And make sure every vote counts.
That's the challenge we're facing.
Yeah, it's a tough question.
It's easy to feel overwhelmed by all of this.
Oh, for sure.
But we can't just give up.
Definitely not.
These experts are calling on all of us to be informed and engaged citizens.
They're saying we can't just assume our democracy is safe.
We have to work to protect it.
And that starts with understanding the problems.
So where do we go from here?
Well, I think the first step is learning about the voting systems in our own communities.
Right.
Like, how do they work? What safeguards are in place?
Right.
We should be asking questions,
Yeah.
demanding transparency from the people who run our elections.
Holding them accountable, making sure our votes are safe.
Exactly.
And we should also support groups like Free Speech for People.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
They're doing such important work,
They're like watchdogs,
keeping an eye on things,
making sure everything's above board.
and pushing for real reforms.
Right, and we can't forget about the power of our own voices.
That's so important.
We need to speak up,
Yeah.
talk about election security.
Have those conversations, even if they're difficult.
Exactly, and we need to tell our elected officials that this matters to us.
Make them prioritize it.
Right, because ultimately it's a group effort.
We all have a responsibility to protect our democracy.
And these experts have given us a way forward.
A call to action.
Yeah, it's up to us to answer that call.
The future of our democracy might depend on it.
It really might.
Sobering thought.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it really is a sobering thought. But we can't let it paralyze us.
Right, we have to take action.
So what can we actually do?
Like, what are some concrete steps?
Yeah. Besides, being informed and talking about it.
Well, one thing we can do is support organizations like Free Speech for People.
Right. They're on the front lines of this fight.
Yeah, they're doing the research and the advocacy.
Holding people accountable.
Exactly. So donating to them or volunteering.
That's a great way to make a difference.
And another thing we can do
Okay.
is really pay attention to what's happening with voting in our own states and local communities.
Like, what do you mean?
Like, are there any proposed changes to voting laws? Are there any efforts to make voting harder or easier?
Right.
Are there any concerns about the security of the voting machines being used?
Okay, so we need to stay informed.
And we need to make our voices heard.
Contact our elected officials.
Let them know we care about this.
Yeah.
That we want our elections to be secure and fair.
Absolutely. And we need to hold them accountable.
If they're not doing enough to protect our right to vote.
We need to call them out.
Exactly, because ultimately this is about protecting our democracy.
It's about making sure every vote counts.
And it's a fight we can't afford to lose.
Well said. I think that's a great note to end on.
Yeah, it's been a really insightful conversation.
It really has. And I hope our listeners feel empowered to take action.
Me too.
Remember, you can find a link to the letter we talked about in the show notes.
And be sure to check out Free Speech for People's website.
They have a ton of great resources on election security.
We will go back to Chris and Jen in a moment. So, hello, I'm William Vance and wanted to add something about the election fraud that they were talking about. There is now evidence that Elon Musk used Starlink to hijack the presidential election. See, the voting machines were connected to Starlink satellites. Billionaire entrepreneur Elon Musk used his internet provider Starlink to steal the 2024 election for President-elect Donald Trump. California and other swing states were able to use Starlink in order to tally up and to count voting ballots in their state. There is the video of podcaster Joe Rogan explaining that Musk knew that Trump would defeat Vice President Kamala Harris 4 hours before the election was called. How did he know that? I'll tell you how he used his satellites to rig the election in favor of Donald Trump. Many ballots had yet to be counted, particularly in blue West Coast states with mail-in voting, and Harris trailed Biden's totals. There are 15 to 20 million missing votes. That's a lot of missing votes, if you ask me. Etheria 77 holds a Cisco-certified Internet Work certification, an extremely demanding and rare qualification, and has said that Starlink was used to manipulate the results. It's not a normal Internet connection. It's a broad span of all different types of freaking information. Doesn't matter what it is. What you're looking up, 15,700,000 freaking things in and out of the freaking signal and process it, and allows it to bounce back and freaking tell you whatever freaking answer you need, she said. This video states the voting machines in Tulare County were connected to the internet via Starlink. Now suddenly, a Starlink satellite exploded in orbit over the area where it was providing service. Fraud! I demand an investigation, tweeted at Green Dragon IVXX. Elon Musk even made claims early in the election that it just takes change of one line of code to get your desired results for an election. Donald Trump even said him and Elon Musk had it set up to have all the votes he needed, and there was no reason for people to vote. Very suspicious, and the Democratic Party are and not even bothering to investigate this. They are just rolling over and letting the Republicans get away with voter fraud. Shame.
Welcome back, everybody. Today we're taking a deep dive into something you guys have sent in a lot of sources about.
Misinformation.
Yeah. And whether it's gotten even more dangerous since 2016.
Oh, absolutely.
Like it wasn't bad enough then.
Right.
We're going to start with Elon Musk.
Interesting.
Because, his AI had something to say about him and misinformation.
Yeah, his own AI calling him out, that's kind of a wild situation.
I know. So get this.
Okay.
This Fortune article we have talks about how
Grok, his AI.
Yeah, developed by his company, XAI.
Right.
Was asked point blank, like straight up,
Okay.
Who spreads the most misinformation on X?
Oh, wow.
And guess what Grok said?
I'm guessing Elon Musk.
Elon Musk. Like, no hesitation.
So blunt.
And it gets even more interesting because it didn't just stop there.
What else did it say?
Grok actually listed specific areas where it thinks Musk is promoting misinformation.
Like what?
Politics. Elections.
Okay.
Even health.
Okay.
Especially stuff about COVID.
Yeah, that was a big one.
And then, just for kicks, it threw in conspiracy theories, too.
Wow, a whole buffet of misinformation.
Right. And it's not just like some random person saying this. It's his own AI.
That he built. I mean, the irony is just, off the charts.
And he has, 150 million followers on X.
Yeah, that's a huge platform.
So anything he says, even if he thinks it's just his opinion.
He can really have an impact.
Definitely real-world consequences.
People take his words seriously, He's got that power.
Exactly.
But then again, Grok did also say that, defining misinformation...
It can be subjective?
Yeah, what one person sees as misinformation, another person might just see as, their opinion.
Which is a whole other can of worms.
It really is. That subjectivity is, one of the biggest challenges when you're trying to fight misinformation.
Especially now. I mean, information just travels so fast online these days.
And it's like wildfire. You can't even keep up.
Right. And it's not just about individual opinions anymore either.
No, it's become so much more organized, don't you think?
Since 2016.
Yeah, 2016 feels like a turning point.
Definitely. We've seen this huge surge in, organized campaigns and straight-up attempts to, manipulate people.
Through misinformation.
Exactly.
And social media is the perfect breeding ground for that.
It's like the Wild West of information out there.
It really is.
So even though this whole Musk and Grok thing is...
kind of bizarre.
Yeah, unique.
It does make you think about the bigger picture.
About how these powerful people and platforms are shaping like what we see and believe.
They have a lot of influence, whether they want to admit it or not.
Totally. And it's not just Musk who's been in the hot seat for spreading misinformation.
Oh, no, not at all.
Remember all the stuff with Mark Zuckerberg?
And Facebook? Oh, yeah, that was a whole saga.
Especially during that 2016 election.
Yeah, a lot of fingers pointed at Facebook for how they handled or didn't handle misinformation.
A lot of people thought they let things get way out of control.
And that it may have actually influenced how people voted.
So what's happening with Musk compared to what Zuckerberg went through?
Well, both faced accusations, but the specifics were pretty different.
Like how?
Zuckerberg and Facebook, they got hit mostly for their algorithms.
Oh, right. How those algorithms decide what people see.
And also their content moderation or lack of it.
Like, they weren't doing enough to stop the spread of fake news.
Basically.
Musk, though, he's being called out for what he himself is tweeting and endorsing.
So it's more about his personal actions.
Yeah, individual accountability.
Versus like systemic issues on the platform.
Like what Zuckerberg was dealing with at Facebook.
Exactly. Two different angles on the same problem. Yeah, it's a really complicated issue, and I think it's a bit of both, you know?
Both individual accountability and the system.
Exactly. Like, even if Musk is just, tweeting his opinions,
right,
they still carry a lot of weight because of who he is.
And how many people hang on his every word.
Right, exactly. And that brings up this whole idea of the amplification effect.
Amplification.
Yeah, like certain voices or types of content, they get boosted on social media.
So they reach way more people than they would otherwise.
Exactly. It's not just about what's being said.
It's also who's saying it.
And how easily it spreads.
And I guess Musk's, fame and all his followers.
Totally magnifies that effect.
Hard time.
And that's where the responsibility of these social media platforms comes in.
They've got to do something.
Yeah, they have so much influence over how information, flows.
They really do.
And I think they have, like, a moral obligation to prevent the spread of harmful stuff.
But how do you even do that?
Right?
It's such a slippery slope. Like, how do you balance that with free speech?
That's the million-dollar question.
Where's the line between censorship and, actually protecting people from misinformation?
Tough one. And both Facebook and Twitter.
Yeah, they've been wrestling with this for years.
Oh, yeah. It's a constant battle.
So what are they actually doing about it?
Well, there are some who think platforms should just be way more hands-on.
Like fact-checking everything.
Yeah, and just removing anything that's, false or misleading.
But isn't that, kind of dangerous?
Yeah. Others say that could lead to censorship, silencing legitimate voices.
So it's a tough call.
It really is.
But have these platforms actually done anything?
Besides just arguing about it.
Right.
Well, both Facebook and X have taken some steps. Like, Facebook partnered with those independent fact-checking groups.
Oh, yeah. I've seen those little fact-check flags.
Yeah, to try to identify and flag, potentially false stuff.
Okay.
They've also tweaked their algorithms, tried to limit the visibility of sources that are known to,
Spread misinformation.
Exactly.
But hasn't that been criticized for not being enough?
It has, yeah. Some people say it's more reactive than proactive.
Like they're cleaning up the mess after it's already happened?
Yeah, and there's also the whole issue of relying on algorithms and AI to catch misinformation.
Because they can be biased.
Right, or even manipulated.
So it seems like we're kind of stuck.
Yeah. No easy solutions here.
And the stakes are getting higher and higher.
They really are, because we're seeing the very real consequences of this stuff.
In the real world.
Exactly. It's not just online anymore.
Like that whole anti-vaccine movement?
Oh, yeah.
So much of that is driven by misinformation online.
And it's led to, fewer people getting vaccinated.
And diseases coming back that we thought were gone.
It's scary.
And then there are conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
They spread like wildfire on social media.
Yeah, do.
And they've led to, actual violence and harassment.
It's really disturbing how something that starts online can have such a huge impact offline.
It shows how urgent this problem is.
We can't just ignore it.
So where do we go from here? What can we even do?
Well, one thing is we have to get better at media literacy.
Media literacy.
Yeah, giving people the tools to actually critically evaluate information.
Like how to spot fake news.
Exactly, and to understand how these algorithms work, recognize bias.
To figure out what sources are actually credible.
It's about empowering people to be smarter about the information they consume.
Not just blindly believing everything they see online.
Exactly. Education is key here.
But isn't that kind of a long game?
It is, but there are also things we can do right now, like pushing for stronger regulations.
To hold these platforms accountable.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be censorship.
But they need to be doing more to stop the spread of harmful stuff.
Absolutely.
And I guess it goes back to personal responsibility, too.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
We need to be more careful about what we share.
Definitely double check things before you hit that retweet button.
And call out misinformation when we see it.
Be a part of the solution, not the problem.
Exact. So it's really a team effort.
It is. Fighting misinformation takes everyone.
Individuals.
Yeah.
Maybe even some new laws and regulations.
It's multifaceted, for sure.
So it's not a tech problem.
Human problem.
And we need to solve it together.
If we want a future where, truth and facts actually matter.
And win out. Misinformation thrives when people don't trust each other.
And when they're ready to believe anything that fits their worldview.
So we need to address those bigger issues, too.
Absolutely. It's all connected.
Well, it seems like the first step is just realizing how big and complicated this problem is.
Definitely. And, we've talked about Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah. Right.
But they're just like the tip of the iceberg.
It's happening everywhere.
Misinformation is everywhere online.
So we all need to be aware of it.
And actively fight back against it.
Wow, so much to think about. We've covered how Elon Musk's own AI called him out for spreading misinformation.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like what Mark Zuckerberg went through back in 2016.
Definitely some parallels there.
It really shows how much worse this whole misinformation thing has gotten.
Oh, yeah. Especially with social media being such a, a dominant force these days.
It's how we get most of our information.
For better or worse.
So where do we even go from here?
It is a tough question.
Like, can we even stop it?
I mean, it's a complex issue. No easy answers.
Right.
But the fact that we're even talking about it, it's a good sign. It means we're starting to realize, how dangerous this stuff really is.
We're waking up.
Exactly.
But how do we actually fight back? Is there a way to stop misinformation without, shutting down free speech?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It feels impossible sometimes.
It's a tricky balance. We want people to be able to speak their minds.
Of course.
But we also can't just let lies and harmful stuff spread unchecked.
It's like, where do you draw the line?
It's a tough one.
So what do we do?
Well, I think it starts with us,
Like individual responsibility.
Exactly. We have to be more critical of what we see online.
Don't just believe everything you read.
Right. Check your sources, before you share something.
Check.
And if you see misinformation, don't be afraid to call it out.
So we can all make a difference.
Absolutely. We all have a part to play.
But it can't just be on individuals.
Yeah. No, definitely not. The platforms, they need to step up to.
Facebook, X, all of them.
They need to take responsibility for what's happening on their platforms.
Implement better content moderation.
Yeah, and invest in fact-checking.
Make their algorithms more transparent.
So we can see how they're working, what's being prioritized.
So it's a combination of things.
It is a multi-pronged approach.
Individual actions, platform accountability.
And maybe even, some smarter regulations to guide everything.
Yeah, because right now it's like the Wild West out there.
It really is.
But we also can't forget about education.
Oh, yeah. That's huge.
We need to teach people, especially young people, how to navigate this crazy online world.
How to be savvy, how to spot misinformation.
Yeah, media literacy programs.
That teach critical thinking skills.
So it's not just about, memorizing facts.
It's about understanding how information works, how to evaluate it.
To be informed citizens in the digital age.
Exactly.
It's a big challenge.
It is, but it's one we have to take on.
Because misinformation thrives when people don't trust each other and just believe whatever fits their worldview.
And that's a dangerous path.
It is. So we need to build a more resilient, more informed society.
Where truth and facts actually matter.
That's the goal.
Has to be.
Well, on that note, we'll leave you with this. What can you do to be a more responsible digital citizen?
It's a question worth asking ourselves.
As we navigate this crazy world of information overload.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. See you next time.